15 most controversial military parades in history. Trump's 2025 U.S. Army 250th Anniversary Parade. Washington, D.C., June 14, 2025. President Donald Trump stands before a crowd as tanks roll past the Capitol. On paper, it's a celebration of the U.S. Army's 250th anniversary. In reality, critics call it something else, a $45 million show of force resembling the military parades of authoritarian regimes. It was timed with Trump's own birthday, which only fueled accusations that this was more about personal branding than national pride. For supporters, it was patriotism in full display. For opponents, it was a chilling reminder of how military power can be politicized. 1989, October Revolution Parade, Soviet Union. Moscow's Red Square, 1989. Snow falls lightly as soldiers march beneath the looming Kremlin walls. The USSR's October Revolution Parade has always been a grand affair, but this year, the atmosphere is tense. The Berlin Wall is about to fall, Eastern Europe is slipping from Soviet control, and Gorbachev's reforms are shaking the old guard. What was meant to be a triumphant display of unity instead felt like a last desperate performance before the curtain fell on the Soviet Empire. The German-Soviet Parade at Brest-Litovsk, 1939. It's one of the most unsettling spectacles in military history, Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union marching together. Just days earlier, their armies had carved up Poland under the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. Now, in the city of Brest-Litovsk, Wehrmacht troops and Red Army soldiers stand side by side, saluting each other in grim coordination. To the world, it was a shocking sight, two ideological enemies joining forces, if only temporarily, to celebrate conquest. For many, it was a betrayal of principle for the sake of power. Nuremberg Rally Parades, 1938, Nazi Germany. If propaganda had a heartbeat, it would sound like the synchronized stomp of boots in Nuremberg. In 1938, Adolf Hitler's regime staged one of its most infamous rallies, with tens of thousands of soldiers and stormtroopers marching in perfect formation. Speeches, banners, and torchlight parades created a hypnotic, almost theatrical experience. The intention was clear, to bind the German people to the Nazi cause through spectacle. But behind the drama lay something far darker, the machinery of war preparing to devour Europe. 1965, Soviet Victory Day Parade. Back in Red Square, 1965 marked the 20th anniversary of the Soviet victory over Nazi Germany. The parade was massive columns of soldiers, endless rows of tanks, and intercontinental ballistic missiles capable of nuclear destruction. On the surface, it was a day of remembrance. In reality, it was also a reminder to the West, the Soviet Union was still a military giant. The Cold War was in full swing, and this parade was as much about fear as it was about pride. China's 2015 National Day Parade. Beijing's Tiananmen Square is the stage, and President Xi Jinping is the conductor of a meticulously choreographed military symphony. In 2015, China rolled out its newest missiles, drones, and stealth fighters in a display that impressed and unsettled the world. Ostensibly marking the end of World War II, the parade also showcased China's ambition to stand as a global military power. Western observers saw it as a warning. At home, it cemented the image of a strong, unshakable Communist Party. North Korea's Reunification Day Parades. Few parades are as ominous as those in Pyongyang. Every few years, North Korea's Kim dynasty gathers the nation to witness gigantic displays of military might, missiles, tanks, and goose-stepping soldiers moving in machine-like unison. For the regime, these parades are vital propaganda tools, designed to reinforce loyalty and intimidate adversaries. For the outside world, they're a reminder that even one of the most isolated nations on Earth is armed to the teeth. Finnish White Victory Parade, 1918. In Helsinki, 1918, General Carl Gustav Mannerheim leads a parade through the city after the Whites' victory in the Finnish Civil War. For supporters, it was a celebration of triumph over the Reds. For others, it was an ominous signal of Finland's political direction. This wasn't just a military march, it was a statement of who held power, and it deepened the divisions that had torn the nation apart. U.S. Grand Review of the Armies, 1865. The Civil War has ended. Washington, D.C. erupts in celebration as Union troops parade for 2 full days through the Capitol. It's a spectacle of victory, unity, and national rebirth. Yet for many Southerners, it's a bitter reminder of defeat, and for critics of militarism, it's a troubling sign of how easily military force can dominate civic life. The line between honoring service and glorifying war was already being debated. U.S. Victory Parade, 1946, New York City. 1 year after World War II, New York throws one of the largest parades in its history. Soldiers, tanks, and aircraft roll down Fifth Avenue as crowds cheer. The intention is pure celebration. But some question the massive cost at a time when the country is struggling with post-war recovery. Was the spectacle worth the price, or was it simply the nation flexing its muscles in the early days of the Cold War? Operation Welcome Home, Gulf War Parade, 1991. After a swift and decisive victory in the Gulf War, the U.S. holds a massive Operation Welcome Home parade in Washington, D.C. and New York. Yellow ribbons flutter, and the streets are filled with cheering crowds. But as the dust settles, some ask hard questions. Was the war's outcome worth celebrating so uncritically? And did the parade overshadow the more complex realities of the conflict in the Middle East? Trooping the Color, United Kingdom. A centuries-old British tradition, Trooping the Color is a dazzling display of pageantry, marking the monarch's official birthday. But even this has sparked controversy. Critics, particularly from pacifist movements, argue that such ceremonies glorify military power and are out of step with modern democratic values. In regions like Northern Ireland, where British military presence has long been contentious, the parade can be seen less as celebration and more as provocation. China's National Day Parades, 2009 and 2019. On the 60th and 70th anniversaries of the People's Republic of China, Beijing staged monumental military parades. Missiles capable of striking any corner of the globe were wheeled past Tiananmen Square. Thousands of soldiers moved in perfect synchronicity, drones swarmed overhead, and fighter jets roared across the sky. The message was unmistakable: China's military had reached a new level, and the world was watching. Russia's Victory Day Parade, 2008. After nearly 2 decades without displaying heavy weaponry in Red Square, Russia reintroduced tanks and missile launchers in its 2008 Victory Day Parade. For many Russians, it was a proud return to Soviet-style grandeur. For critics, it was a worrying sign of a resurgent militarism under Vladimir Putin, one that would soon find expression in real-world conflicts. Dictatorial regime parades, Mussolini, Saddam, Gaddafi, and others. From Mussolini's Italy to Saddam Hussein's Iraq, Gaddafi's Libya, and Mobutu's Zaire, military parades have often been tools of personal glorification. These spectacles blur the line between national pride and the cult of personality, using choreographed might to intimidate opponents and dazzle supporters. In these regimes, a parade is never just a parade, it's a warning, a celebration, and a performance of absolute power.